Buenos días, señor.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The meeting is opened. I would like to point out that the general shareholders meeting of the company is broadcasted live following recommendations of the 2015 Good Governance Code. We are therefore currently broadcasting live from now on. The Secretary takes the floor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Ordinary General Shareholders Meeting of Accionistas SA has assembled following its second notice. According to the attendees list, among present and represented, 2,411 shareholders are attending, who are holders of 179,009,551 shares, which represents 64.84% of the subscribed capital with voting rights. For such purposes, the present votes, distance votes, those delegated to the board, those of shareholders represented on the board of directors, and the votes of shares owned by board members have been calculated. And given the nature of the matters to be dealt with in the meeting, in accordance with the provisions established in Article 193 of the Capital Companies Act and in Article 13, its constitution is valid. The announcements of the call to attend this general shareholders meeting have been published on the 28th of April 2017 in the official gazette of the Mercantile Registry number 81, in the daily newspaper Expansión, and on the website of the National Securities Market Commission, CNMV. They have also been published on the website of Accionistas SA from that date. All documents related to this general shareholders meeting have been made available to the shareholders since the announcement of the meeting, according to the provisions set out in the current Capital Companies Act. It has also been available at this general shareholders meeting. So, is there any shareholder who wishes to make any request or raise any question concerning the red data of shareholders' attendance and capital in the announcement publication? If not, accordingly, this ordinary general shareholders meeting is validly constituted, being chaired by Mr. Rafael Miranda Robredo, acting as secretary, Mr. Luis Jimeno Valledor, who is speaking. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for attending this general shareholders meeting. Since the annual accounts, management reports and audit reports have been made available to all the attendees, we take them as read, unless you express the contrary. We take them to be read. Next, I will continue with my presentation, and for your information, I will include that which is established in point 9 of the agenda regarding the level of compliance of the Good Governance Code and the changes regarding this matter which have taken place since the previous general shareholders meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I have the honour and satisfaction of addressing you as chairman of Accionistas at the general shareholders meeting of our company. On behalf of the board of directors and myself, I wish to reiterate our thanks to you for joining us today. We are here today to inform all our shareholders of the events which occurred in our company during 2016, a year characterized by a tremendously complex international environment, plagued by uncertainties and surprises, the product of political events that developed throughout the year across the globe, some of them with special importance to our business, given the significant presence we have in these areas. In effect, the American electoral process and the first policies implemented by the Trump administration, Brexit and the consequences that the departure of the United Kingdom from the European Union may have on the future of the Union, doubts about the strength of the Chinese economy, political instability in the Middle East and its effects on global security, tensions between Russia and the European Union, and others more, led one to forecast negative effects on the growth of the world economy at the beginning of the year, with their logical consequence on the growth of our industry. Fortunately, the most pessimistic forecasts made by different international organizations were not fulfilled, as the world economy grew below previous years, but with very similar figures. Yet the most important news for Accionistas is that the activity of our industry was able to reverse the fall it experienced in 2015 and has rebounded to powerful growth, as we will see throughout these presentations. I would like to tell you right from the start of my presentation that despite this uncertain environment, the activity and results achieved by Accionistas during the financial year presented here must undoubtedly be qualified as positive. As usual, I shall make a brief review of the evolution of the world economy, as well as those economies where our presence is most significant, given the dependence of our sector's activity on the economic development of these markets. The world economy grew in 2016 by 3.1%, below the 3.4% of 2015, mainly due to the decline experienced by the more advanced economies, which grew by 1.7% compared to 2.1% in the previous year, while emerging markets and the economies of developing countries experienced growth of 4.1%, very similar to the 4.2% of 2015. This evolution of the world economy went from less to more, supported fundamentally by the acceleration of the emerging economies in the second half of the year. With regard to the economies that matter most to us, given the important presence we have in their markets, we can state the following. The United States economy grew by 1.6% compared to 2.6% in the previous year, thus making for a difficult economic period, full of uncertainties, which had two distinct phases. A first half with disappointing growth, and a second half with clear economic expansion. The economy of the European Union, despite finishing with 1.7% growth as compared to 1.9% the year before, resisted episodes of financial instability and the political events of the year fairly well, with the economic recovery extending to a greater number of countries and Spain being the leader of economic growth, as is well known. The Chinese economy ended the year with 6.7% growth, therefore slowing slightly, but doubts remain whether the process of economic slowdown piloted by the Chinese leadership will develop in an orderly or abrupt fashion, thus not clearing up for the moment the doubts surrounding the set of financial, real estate and currency exchange risks that the economy has. Among the emerging economies, the ASEAN 5 economies performed positively with 4.9% growth above the 4.8% of 2015, with growth in the economies of Indonesia, Thailand and the Philippines, and with slight decline from the previous year in Malaysia and Vietnam, but with strong growth in both cases with 4.2% and 6.2% respectively. The South African economy kept up the pace of its slowdown of the last 3 years, reaching the disappointing growth rate of 0.3%. The perspectives that exist for 2017 are positive, with a clear belief that the global growth acceleration scenario, based on the results of the fourth quarter of last year and the positive data at the onset of the year, will continue. This has led analysts from many different institutions to forecast world GDP growth of around 3.4 to 3.5%, with the acceleration of growth in all the economic areas with the greatest impact on our company. All of this without having cleared up any of the uncertainties and doubts about the world economy as a result of the increase in inflation and the climate of political uncertainty in which some advanced countries are immersed, ones which are of particular importance for us: the degree of implementation of Trump administration policies, the development of the Brexit negotiations and their potential impact on Europe, and the evolution of doubt surrounding the Chinese economy and in particular how its slowdown and industrial policy develop over time. A very brief reflection is required on the Spanish economy, which, as we all know, has been developing very favourably since 2014, having achieved 3.2% growth in 2016, for yet another year leading European growth. And more importantly, with expectations for strong growth over the next few years, close to 3% in 2017 and above 2% in the following, which could allow us, if this were so, to reverse the grave consequences that the economic crisis had on our company by the year 2020. In order to achieve this objective, which should be indispensable, government policy must continue to further what is considered the key to our recovery, the reforms that have allowed us to improve our competitive edge, a position that is now admired in international markets, the improvement of our institutions of all kinds, some unfortunately discredited at present, Also the consensus of the major issues of state, some of which are fundamental for the future, such as education reform or the development of a policy that defends our industry, something particularly important and dear to us. All this and much more requires a climate of political and institutional stability in order to be achieved, and that is why, once again, from the business world, we must ask the Spanish political class to have the sense of responsibility and to take a broad view in order to conduct themselves, politically speaking, in a way that fosters this stability and thus gives us the opportunity for long-term economic growth and prosperity that seems to exist on the horizon, which can be so beneficial for both Spain and Europe as a whole. As I said at the beginning of the presentation, in this complex environment where our industry has had to operate, the year began with forecasts for the stainless steel market indicating global growth for 2016 in the vicinity of 2%. Together with the decline of 2015, this would have placed us, or represented a significant drag on the historical growth of our product, which has been around 6%. Fortunately, the year ended with 10.2% growth, going from less to more, much like the economy as a whole, with a similar upswing in prices in all markets and therefore recovering from early setbacks. As I have said already, the fiscal year results can be described positively, as you will see from the data that I present, and especially the developments the CEO will describe in his presentation. With a turnover of 6% less than the previous year, and despite a 9% increase in the number of tons sold, we still generated an EBITDA of 329 million euros, which is 15% higher than in 2015. A gross result of 127.9 million euros, 66% higher than the previous year, and a net result of 80.3 million euros, which is 87.3% better in comparison with the previous year. The most significant developments that explain these results are: firstly, the positive behaviour of our most important markets, in particular the apparent consumption of flat products in the European Union, which increased by 7.8%, leading to strong consumer growth in the main markets, with the exception of the UK, allowing us to increase our share in the Spanish market and bolster our presence in Russia and Turkey. The 7% market growth of flat products in the United States, although the total apparent consumption was only 4.1% and was affected by the lack of investment in the hydrocarbon sector. The good performance of Columbus, which despite an 8.5% fall in the apparent consumption of flat products in South Africa, benefited from the exports due to the depreciation of the rand and succeeded in increasing its market share nationwide. The increase in share quota of Baru stainless in primary ASEAN markets, despite growing Chinese competition and the complex regulations existing in some countries of the region. As a consequence of all of the above, our company's strong production levels throughout 2016 made it the best year in cold rolling production since its foundation, and the second best in steel and hot rolling mills. And of course, also the positive evolution of prices, which, after the successive drops experienced in 2015, gradually increased in all markets, thanks to their healthy dynamics and raw material trends. Among the developments in raw materials, nickel prices hit a low at the beginning of the year at $7,700 per meter, but recovered, surpassing the figure of 11,700 per meter at the beginning of November and stabilizing at the end of the year at 10,000 per metric ton. The ongoing concern for improving efficiency through the implementation of our excellence plans, which translated during the year into a containment of operating expenses in spite of higher production and sales volumes, resulting in a rising trend in the EBITDA margin from 4% in the first quarter to 10% in the second half. To finish with this outline of our results, I would like to highlight 3 additional facts that seem to me particularly relevant. First of all, special mention should be made of the cash flow from operating activities, which totaled 269 million euros, enabling us to invest 156 million euros, pay the dividends of the shareholders who opted for cash in the year's scrip dividend, and reduce the debt by 91 million euros to 620 million euros. Secondly, I would like to remind you that in May 2016, debt amounting to 717 million euros was refinanced by 12 different banks, which extended its maturity until 2021, thus reducing the interest rates and moderating payments over the next 3 years. And I think it is important to highlight the significant reduction in financial expenses for the year, which totals 33%. And lastly, I would like to mention the behaviour of the American market during the year, which was marked heavily by the restrictions on Chinese steel imports that had been announced in July and September and were recently ratified, adding to that which had previously been imposed by Europe. As you all know, at the end of April, we released the results of our company for the first quarter of this year. These results are extremely positive, with a turnover which was 31.4% higher than the same period of the previous year, generating an EBITDA of 191.24 million euros, 367% higher than the first quarter of 2016, making for a 15.3% EBITDA margin and a net result of 98 million euros, higher by 18 million for all of 2016, and well above the 8.3 million euros in losses for the first quarter of 2016. These results are due to improved market conditions, increased production, and the appreciation of raw material price increases at the end of 2016, as well as the ongoing management effort and its ability to adapt to the changing conditions of all the variables in our industry. The results achieved, although difficult to replicate in the short term, mark a clear positive trend for the current year. I'm going to talk about responsibility and sustainability now. I believe it is important, yet again, this year, to make mention of this twin reality that any modern company, one committed to its shareholders and the society in which it finds itself, must embrace. This is an economic reality and the reality of the activity of the economy, and also the social reality of the company itself. This twin reality is perfectly described in the integrated annual report we have provided. Allow me to summarize some of the policies, actions, or concrete facts that seem most relevant to me. During the year 2016, Acerinox paid 284.9 million euros in salaries to its 6,573 employees worldwide, contributing 77.2 million euros to various social security schemes. We also paid 143.5 million euros worth of taxes on the 5 continents in which we operate. Last year, the Board of Directors approved the General Tax Policy, which provides the guidelines for the group's tax practices, which are quite logically aligned with the best globally accepted practices. Acerinox continues its policy of striving towards excellence in environmental performance, conceived under the philosophy of the zero emissions target, which aims to reduce emissions in both absolute and specific terms. The group studies the most efficient way to manage energy and creates relevant optimization programs. All our factories apply environmental efficiency measures designed to reduce water consumption, promote and encourage its reuse, and return it to the natural environment as if it had never been used in an industrial plant. We work under the guiding principle of acting to safeguard air quality, minimizing atmospheric emissions, and constantly monitoring the chief sources of emission, and more specifically, reducing the CO2 emissions resulting from our work as much as possible. According to ISSF data, our direct emission intensity is 20% lower than the average figure for other stainless steel manufacturers, and 30% lower than the average for the steelmaking industry worldwide. As indicated in the section on waste management, our company has developed its own casting technology using a very high percentage of recycled materials, around 70%, exceeding the world average for steel manufacturers, according to ISSF data. Occupational health and safety is an absolute priority within our company, and we are pleased to announce that last year's accident rate was one of the lowest in our history. The ISSF presented North American Stainless with the institution's 2016 Safety Award for its endeavours in the field. And on the 18th of May, Acerinox Europe was awarded the ISSF's 2017 Gold Medal for Safety, while Columbus finished in second place. Acerinox provides stable and high-quality employment, and its code of conduct and additional standards contain policies related to respect for diversity and equality, effective mechanisms for prevention and monitoring and punishment of corruption, the protection of basic human rights, for which last year we once again signed up to the United Nations Global Compact, and the prevention of harassment in the workplace. It's important to point out that last year, a total of approximately 48 million euros were assigned to environmental expenses and investments. The group once again devoted a significant amount of its resources to the numerous social action programs it performs in the regions in which it has a significant presence. And finally, it took part in a number of sustainability-related projects, particularly the Carbon Disclosure Project, for which it received a B grade, A being the highest grade, F the lowest, and the Global Reporting Initiative obtaining a G4 version of the GRI certificate. In our sector, research and development is closely related to our industrial activity, and therefore the improvements in our products and production processes and the implementation of new technologies arise directly from our production centres, either in their laboratories or on their production lines. Last year, 16 million euros were assigned just to our factories' research and innovation laboratories. In addition to the above, we should mention the efforts made by Acerinox for the promotion, development and application of stainless steel. It's very important to emphasize that Acerinox is not unaffected by the new technological revolution, and in particular, the technological transformation of the industry, the so-called digital transformation. Apart from the highly significant level of technology within our industry, Acerinox and its management team are well aware of and very attentive to technological breakthroughs and their potential application. And for this purpose, together with updating and enhancing the areas of digitization, sensorization and connectivity by means of new technologies related to industry, information and communications, specific projects are being conducted at our factories. In an effort to work together with universities in this area, we have signed up to the Chair of Connected Industry of the Comillas Pontifical University. With regard to the company's corporate governance, the Board of Directors has continued to work on its optimization, completing the task begun in 2015. In relation to the improvement of the internal standards, 3 additional policies have been approved and added to the 5 general policies adopted prior to the general meeting held in June 2016. These new policies include the General Tax Policy, the General Corporate Governance Policy, and the Discretionary Treasury Stock Management Policy. The Internal Code of Conduct in matters related to the stock markets has also been approved, replacing the code which dated back to 2004, and thereby complying with the legal obligation under the provisions of Article 80.2 of the consolidated text of the stock market law. Similarly, a new code of conduct has been approved to replace the one adopted by the board in 2010. The prevention and compliance system will be launched and based upon this code, which will also adapt its form of operation to the provisions of Spanish criminal legislation, enabling it to conform to the changing realities of compliance in the different countries in which Acerinox operates. As for personnel-related issues, we can state that, in accordance with the commitment acquired by the board to increase its gender diversity, we have appointed women as independent directors as vacancies have emerged, in such a way that, following the ratification of the 2 directors appointed by co-option, together with the appointments proposed at this meeting, we will have increased the number of female directors to 4, thereby practically fulfilling the recommended figure of 30% several years in advance. By incorporating independent directors, we are able to ensure that the number of independent directors on the board forms the largest group, 8 out of 15, followed by the proprietary directors, a total of 5, as a result of which the board structure will better reflect the company's current capital structure. Furthermore, the Audit Committee has made the corresponding adjustments to ensure that the majority of the members are independent. Improvements have also been made to the functioning of the Executive Committee. The number of meetings of the board and its committees has been increased, and another set of improvements has been applied, including the implementation of an electronic platform for the functioning of the board and its committees. Finally, in relation to the sustainability report, following the board's instructions, not only the 2 traditional companies, Acerinox SA and Acerinox Europe, but also NAS, Columbus and Baru have been submitted to GRI reporting and validation. The sustainability report has also been submitted to an external audit for the first time. In this section, I should refer to the changes which have been taking place on the board since the 2015 meeting held in June 2016. On the 27th of July 2016, Mr. Oscar Fanjul and Mr. Diego Prado resigned. They had been proprietary directors on behalf of Feynman Capital SL, Mr. Fanjul since May 2000 and Mr. Prado since June 2005. On the 21st of December 2016, the board witnessed the resignation of Mr. Javier Fernandez, who had been a proprietary director on board of Corporación Financiera Alba since 2014. And on the 4th of April 2017, the board witnessed the resignation of Ms. Rosa Maria Garcia, who had been an independent director of the company since October 2013. I would like to thank all of them on behalf of the board of directors and on a personal basis for their work and devotion and the services rendered to the company during their respective terms of office. On the 21st of December 2016, at the proposal of Corporación Financiera Alba, following a report drawn up by the Appointments, Remuneration and Corporate Governance Committee, the Board of Directors appointed Mr. Tomás Evia as a proprietary director and also appointed him as a member of the Executive Committee. On the 26th of April 2017, once the selection process performed by the Appointments, Remuneration and Corporate Governance Committee had been completed at the proposal of the above committee, the Board of Directors appointed Ms. Rosa García Piñeiro and Ms. Laura González Molero by co-option as independent directors to cover 2 of the vacancies, while it also appointed the latter as a member of the Audit Committee. On the same date, the board, at the proposal of the committee, agreed to propose the appointment of Ms. Marta Martinez as an independent director to the General Shareholders Meeting. I shall now talk about stock activity. In 2016, Acerinox shares constituted one of the 11 IBEX 35 securities which ended the year with an appreciation of over 10%. In particular, they had one of the best performances in the Spanish index with a revaluation of 33.85% throughout the year, compared to a fall of 2.01% in the IBEX 35 itself. So far this year, despite the analysts' positive forecast and the good first quarter results, due to a number of exogenous factors, the value of our shares on the 30th of May was 2.58% down from the start of the year, set against the 16.3% revaluation of the IBEX 35. The performance of our shares is in keeping with the prices of our main competitors. However, a high percentage of analysts recommend purchasing or maintaining an average target price of 14.14 euros per share. We are convinced that the sector, and Acerinox in particular, have the potential for growth throughout the year, given the positive expectations we have for our business. Of the issues brought before the General Meeting, I would like to highlight the following matters. First of all, approval of the dividend. As can be observed, we propose distributing a dividend of 0.45 euros per share in a single cash payment to be made in July. After 4 years in which the remuneration has been performed by means of a scrip dividend, the company has decided to return to a system of cash remuneration. This decision has been based on the improvement in the results and the cash generation in 2016, the satisfactory progress in 2017, and the greater stability we foresee in the coming years. All the above conveys to us the confidence in the future necessary for proposing this agreement. This dividend represents a dividend yield of 3.66% on the 29th of May. With regards to re-election, ratification and appointment of board members, I would like to say that following a report drawn up by the Appointments Committee, we propose re-electing Mr. Rio Hattori, appointed in his status as external proprietary director, on behalf of Nissin Steel for a further 4 years. Similarly, following a report drawn up by the Appointments Committee, we propose ratifying the appointment of Mr. Tomás Evia Amargol as external proprietary director on behalf of Corporación Financiera Alba. Similarly, at the proposal of the Appointments Committee, we propose ratifying the appointments of Ms. Rosa Maria García Piñeiro and Ms. Laura González Molero by co-option, both as external proprietary directors, and appointing Ms. Marta Martinez as an independent director to the General Shareholders Meeting. In all the above cases, their professional careers have been taken into account, as well as their personal qualities and values, their renowned professional prestige, and their proven experience. I would like to end my speech by talking about the future, and more specifically the future of Acerinox. I begin with the premise that making predictions about the future has become one of the riskiest tasks in existence, given that time in the world appears to have accelerated, everything seems to be happening at the same time, and nothing lasts long enough to be analysed and understood in depth. But the great and profound changes we will have to address, and which are sure to come about, will be exciting and full of opportunities. Without doubt. Many of us are convinced that in order to capitalise on the opportunities which arise, we must have companies and organisations ready for the change, streamlined and capable of quickly adapting to the new circumstances. It's true that our company operates in a traditional sector which is cyclical, volatile, and some might say rather inflexible. But it is also true that those who have the attributes to distinguish themselves from the rest are sure to be the winners. We have a mature, but at the same time a young product, given that no one has come up with something to replace it more efficiently. We will have to continue searching for new applications and niche and new markets. Fortunately, Acerinox is able to do this, having found a niche in the American market with the new BA line, seeking markets along many different paths for the product made in Bauru, and making the most of our presence in South Africa to boost exports. Our geographical diversification is unique, giving us flexibility which others do not have. And we have a strong presence in the best markets, the USA, Europe and Asia. It's true that we are now undergoing the onslaught of Chinese competition, but once it becomes more rationalised, we will be in an advantageous position. In order to enhance our standing, we have not relied on the restrictions on world trade. Quite the contrary. We have fought in this environment, and although these restrictions are appearing in some markets, such as the protective measures applied to the American industry, we trust that we will not be the ones to suffer. We have a more streamlined, efficient and competitive structure than that of our competitors because we have overcome the crisis and we have become stronger with a winning culture. We are non-conformist and innovative people. If others believe in the digital transformation, we do too. And we have our plan because we believe that it will lead to improvements in future competitiveness. We have a strategic plan which we have successfully implemented, and above all, we know what we have to do to adapt it to the new, changing reality we are faced with. Finally, we have a healthy financial structure with a great capacity for cash generation, enabling us to finance the future. We are therefore optimistic about the future, as we have stated so often. As long as the economic cycle helps us, raw materials stabilise and the Chinese economy become more rationalised, as appears to be happening at the moment. We have the characteristics to be flexible and to be the winners. And of course, we have the ambition and the expectation to overcome the challenges which we face and to be able to achieve ever-improving results. Together we have built a great company which has been able to overcome difficult and challenging times, which has developed with the sole support of its shareholders and workers. And we owe all of them our deepest gratitude. Today we have a committed, effective management team with ideas worthy of praise, and we should show our appreciation for the efforts they have made, together with those of each and every one of our workers on the 5 continents. And of course you, dear shareholders, our shareholders, without whom none of the above would be possible. So therefore you also deserve our gratitude for your constant and determined support. Many thanks to all of you.
A continuación tiene...
Now we give the floor to the CEO of Accionistas, Mr. Bernardo Velázquez, who will present a report in the company. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Good morning, dear shareholders. It is a privilege and an honor to be able to inform you of our company's progress during 2016. The results obtained and the context in which our work has been carried out, both within the general framework of the global economy and the specific context of the stainless steel sector. In order to analyze the situation, please allow me to go back to what has been called the raw materials crisis, the first symptoms of which were noticed in 2014, but which did not return serious until September 2015, with a sharp fall in the price of petrol and all traded raw materials. The roots of the crisis lay in the doubts that emerged about the solidity of the economic growth of emerging countries, especially China. the country which has acquired enormous importance in recent years because of its size and its influence on the rest of the world. Questions were also asked about the credibility of its plans to change its growth model and the accuracy of the financial information it released. Logically, lower growth would also entail reduced consumption of raw materials, pushing their prices lower. These factors clearly had a negative effect on forecasts, but it also, in my opinion, undermined the confidence in the recovery of the global economy in the wake of the harsh correction suffered during the crisis and the different economic, financial, and political relapses that occurred. In any case, whatever the reason, the effect of this last phase in the crisis resulted in a continuous decrease in the price of raw materials and of nickel in particular, which affects our business given the significance it has for the cost of our products and in setting the sale prices for stainless steel. The price of nickel decreased to levels not seen since 2003, and this long period of decrease caused a gradual deterioration in prices of stainless steel and the reduction of our margins, despite of our efforts to reduce costs and shorten the production and sales cycle of our products to minimize the impact of market volatility. For this reason, we suffered losses in 3 consecutive quarters, the last 2 of 2015 and the first of 2016. This situation came to an end in early February 2016 when nickel reached its lowest price of $7,700 per ton, a price below the production cost of the majority of manufacturers of this metal. Its price then stabilized at $10,000 per ton, and this situation allowed us to rebalance our cost and begin gradually improving our margins from March onwards. As we have previously explained, our business is not affected by the price of nickel, but by its movement, since that dictates the pace of market activity and therefore prices. The setting of stainless steel prices is characterized by transparency, since customers can anticipate their evolution at any time by monitoring the prices of the main alloy elements involved in the calculation of the so-called alloy surcharge, namely nickel, chromium, and iron, which at present represent 60% of the total price. With the price of nickel falling, customers try to clear their stocks in expectation of a lower purchase price, and by reducing purchases further increase the pressure on prices. Recent years have been characterized by price volatility, and this uncertainty has a negative effect on consumption. Therefore, the greater stability which has gradually imposed itself will be positive for our market, and even more so if nickel prices remain at their current low levels, since this makes stainless steels more competitive compared with other materials and will contribute towards the development of consumption through the introduction of new applications. Therefore, the financial year 2016 went from less to more. We started with losses of 8 million euros in the first quarter, but with the price of nickel stable and excess inventory in the markets corrected, we were able to focus on attention on accomplishing our strategic plan, increasing our global sales of units by 9% over the year, and handling a large volume of orders efficiently and productively. Our EBITDA went from 41 million euros in the first quarter to 79 in the second, and 103 in the third, to end with 106 million in the last quarter of the year. Fortunately, this situation has continued, and in my opinion, despite the many uncertainties we face in the political and geostrategic arena and the obstacle course of increasing pessimistic scenarios arising from each electoral process in different countries, we are clearly looking at the start of a phase of economic growth. The worst-case scenarios from the start of 2016 have come true. The UK leaving the European Union, the advance of populist platforms and increased political tensions on different fronts, but even so, we continue to grow. Nearly all the economies of the world are growing, a situation that we have not seen for many years. We trust that the lessons learned will ensure that this new growth cycle will be moderate, sustainable, and therefore long-lasting. Another factor which had a significant influence in 2016 was April's announcement of 75.6% anti-dumping and 63.9% anti-subsidy duties in the USA against cold-rolled stainless steel from China, which were ratified in March 2017. A year earlier, it was the European Union who used anti-dumping tariffs to penalize unfair competition by Chinese products, which meant that the exports from this country switched massively to the United States in 2015, seriously affecting conditions in this market, which we should recall is the main market for Acerinox. The creation of stainless steel plants in China in recent years means that this country now accounts for 54.5% of world production. China produced 24.9 million tons in 2016 compared with 730,000 in 2001, which was barely 3% of the total. This phenomenon upset the normal growth of the sector and altered all established trade relationships, devastating the markets where this excess capacity is directed. We hope that the government of the People's Republic of China forges ahead with its plans to reduce overcapacity in the country by closing inefficient and polluting plants, and we hope that it eliminates subsidies for the building of new factories. This would quickly allow supply and demand to even out, with a forecast of growth for world stainless steel consumption in upcoming years. China can in no way be considered a market economy at the moment. By guaranteeing its status, the European Union will trigger serious consequences for European industry, which would be unprotected against products manufactured in regulated markets under conditions that do not have any criteria like our regulations on sustainability, transparency, social justice, or environmental protection. I would like to illustrate this with a specific example from our sector, as part of what is called environmental dumping, and which has been used in the past. According to studies carried out by the International Stainless Steel Forum, the International Associations of Stainless Steel Manufacturers, the CO2 emissions from the production of 1 ton of Acerinox steel are 20% lower than world averages. If European manufacturers lead on emission reduction, it is easy to grasp that other manufacturers, including those in Asia, produce more than 20% more emissions than Acerinox. On the other hand, a ship running on diesel emits around 30% of the CO2 emitted by Acerinox per ton of manufactured steel on its voyage from Asia to Europe, which means that European consumption of Asian stainless steel entails an increase of at least 50% in greenhouse gas emissions. We in Europe should be aware that if we do not support European products in all areas of industry, we will encourage a result at odds with what we want. Instead of leading the world in defending the environment, we will be contributing to its further destruction while we kill our own industry and eliminate thousands of jobs. We trust that Spain and Europe will not leave us alone in the fight to reduce emissions and what the European moral leadership to achieve our commitment to a sustainable economy, despite the higher cost that it entails, will not allow the European industry to succumb to producers from other countries with greater permissiveness. It must curb imports of products which do not comply with our idea of sustainability and must give strong support to efficient and clean industry. Returning to our company, the announcement of the introduction of anti-dumping and anti-subsidy measures in the U.S. market in April 2016 drastically reduced imports of cold-rolled materials from China. Thanks to this, prices gradually increased, and this improved our group's results, particularly in the latter part of the year. At present, both Europe and the United States have a percentage of import penetration of between 20% and 25%, which is similar to the levels before the anti-dumping measures against China. The change in the exporting countries, however, means that there is less distortion and more healthy competition. The other remarkable news in our sector in 2016 was the sharp increase in the global production of stainless steel of 10.2% to 45.8 million tons, which is higher than the historic average rate of 6% we have maintained since 1950. If we only look at the period between 2008 and 2016, we can see that this rate has accelerated to 7.4%, the equivalent of 3.4 million of tons annual growth. There is no doubt that the growth is concentrated in mainly Asian emerging countries, but for years Acerinox has been expecting this growth model with the conviction that the development of countries that have a large population, such as China, India, Indonesia, and other Southeast Asian countries, and including Malaysia, and whose consumption per capita is relatively low still, will make it possible to maintain these rates, which makes stainless steel an exceptional material that is extending to new areas of application in industry and construction year after year, and is evolving much more quickly than other industrial metals and alloys, and one which still has a very long way to go. According to data from ISSF, consumption of stainless steel exceeded all forecasts and grew by 9.9% worldwide. Naturally, China was the main driver with growth of 13.8%. The rest of Asia had also a remarkable behavior with 8% more than the previous year. In the other grouped markets, Europe plus Africa grew by 6.9%, and the whole of America by 2.2%, held back by the poor performance of South America. According to our internal data from our main markets, the apparent consumption of fat products grew by 7.8% in Europe, which is still 4.2% below the peak reached in 2006. Remember that the consumption of stainless steel fell by 34.9% between 2006 and 2009. The correction in the United States was even sharper when consumption fell by 48%. This is always regarded as a more dynamic market, and our sector was proof of that because by 2014, consumption was above its pre-crisis level. Even so, there was a 7% improvement in 2016. Spain also grew by a credible 8.9% last year, although we are still 19.1% below the highest levels reached in 2006. This figure shows how hard the crisis was, during which we lost 45.1% of consumption and a large number of processing companies, and it shows how badly our industry needs support if we are to become protagonists once again, and if we want the industry to provide 20% of GDP in 2020. Looking at the Acerinox's results for 2016, we can happily state that we are benefiting from the greater stability of the main parameters influencing our business and from the increase in demand for stainless steel. So we can dedicate our efforts to pursuing our strategy and demonstrating our flexibility to adapt to the cycles and to achieve the best results possible at all times. Our sales of all physical units rose by 9% in 2016 in comparison with the previous year, and enables us to increase production in the factories of the group. Cold rolled production grew by 6.6% to 1.72 million tons, which is the highest figure in our history, and milled production grew but 6.7% to 2.48 million tons, the second best result in our history. All of our steel mills increased production in 2016. Acerinox Europe by 1.1%, North American Stainless 8%, and Columbus Stainless by 13.1%. This increases also took place while we were reducing our stocks of units by 6.6%, which meant 24,600 tons less. Even more stable is the fact that these increases were achieved with exhaustive control of manufacturing costs, since staffing costs only increased by 1.8%, while operating costs fell by 0.1%. Our excellence plan is undoubtedly related to this achievement, but the greatest merit is due to the huge effort made by everyone that is part of Acerinox team. Thanks to them, during the second half of the year, we achieved EBITDA sales margins of over 10%, a very commendable figure given the very competitive prices in the market, and one which allows us to have an optimistic view of the future as market conditions continue to improve. All of our units ended the year making a positive contribution to the group EBITDA, including our Malaysian project, Baru Stainless. By consolidating the results of Baru with those obtained by the other plants from the supply of cold rolled coil for rolling in Malaysia, Baru's contribution to the group EBITDA was 19 million euros, which is very important considering that this was achieved with prices at over $400 per ton below those of Europe. Cold rolled production grew by 18.9% this new plant, which gradually finds its place in the market and which is positioning itself as a reference for product quality and service in Southeast Asia. The excellence plans for 2015-2016 concluded with a 70% of the target achieved, resulting in a recurrent annual saving of 50 million euros, but with the singularity that during the second year of application we worked on almost 100% of the targets, which demonstrates that these targets have already become a standard in our processes. After 8 years implementing this plan in December 2016, we dared to launch the Excellence Plans 5, 2017-2018, with the aim of achieving a recurring annual saving of 50 million euros and consolidating the improvements made during the 8 years in which we have worked hard to improve our competitiveness. Now that we are once again in a growth cycle promoting sales and activity in our factories, completion of the plan will enable us to keep on improving and not lose the ground we have won. Although our turnover of 3,968 million euros was down 6% due to the low prices of stainless steel, the EBITDA of 329 million was 15% higher than in the previous years, and the result after taxes and payments to minority interests of 80 million grew by 87.3%. Only 10.4% of our sales are in Spain, and only 36.8% are in Europe as a result of our international vocation. Cash flow from our activities rose to 269 million euros, which enabled us to reduce our net financial debt by 91 million to 620 million euros, after making payment for investment in equipment worth 156 million and paying out 27 million in cash to the 23% of shareholders who chose this option for the flexible dividend at 0.45 euros per share approved by the General Shareholders Meeting of 2016. In May 2016, Acerinox concluded agreements with 12 banking entities for a total amount of 770 million euros, extending the maturity dates for its debt and moderating the financial cost. This operation, coupled with the reduction in debt and the generation of more cash, allows us to face the coming years with great confidence. The financial cost for the whole year fell by 32.8% compared with 2015. The gradual improvement in our results increased our share value in 2016, which was re-evaluated by 33.9% during the year due to a 2% loss in Index 35, which is the second best value for this index. We are 25 in this list under liquidity criteria, which ensures our permanence in the select group of traded companies. The total investment in fixed assets was 173 million euros compared with 94 million in 2015. In 2016, we have carried out construction and equipment installation work at North American Stainless NAS in Kentucky, which finished on time. NAS has had a new BA bright annealing line and a new cold rolling mill since the end of March 2017, which have increased the range of anneal finished products and the total production of this plant by 10%, which is still the most competitive in the world according to most analysts. The first reels processed on these lines proved that the equipment selection was correct, confirming the capacity of our technicians to tackle projects of this size. We shall soon see the sheen of this new NAS material on domestic appliances in American homes and on the trucks coasting along the enormous highways of the United States, which restores our pride as Spaniards. In addition, work has started on the new AP annealing and pickling line with a new cold rolling mill for the Acerinox factory in Campo de Gibraltar, which will replace the first equipment commissioned in 1972 and which has already more than fulfilled the objectives for which it was acquired. This investment will result in major improvements in quality and cost, a range of products with great added value with finer gauge and special ferritic materials, most of which are destined for end users. The first tests are scheduled for the end of 2017 and will give this facility the most advanced technology for making stainless steel, showing how far technological advances can take us when handled by experts such as the workers in this factory. Once again, we think we have anticipated the market, investing at the most difficult times to capitalize on new equipment, rapidly achieving an improvement in the economic cycle. These investments deserve to be included in the research, development and innovation section, since they include the contributions and experience of our engineers and operators and involve significant technological improvements for our facilities. We are a major consumer of R&D plus I, and we buy a lot of R&D plus I, and we have additionally invested 16 million euros in this area, focusing mainly on improving production processes, improving the quality of our products, the safety of our workers, and reducing our environmental impact. Until now, research was centered on our labs. But now we have extended the spectrum of this activity. The analysis of the data will give us an advantage in many areas of our business, taking advantage of the so-called digital transformation. The processing of large quantities of data from our manufacturing departments and of our supply chain, as well as the application of new available technologies, will allow us to improve our manufacturing technique and our productivity and grow our results in the coming years. For this reason, we are eagerly tackling new projects to improve the maintenance and reliability of our lines and to optimize the efficiency and costs of our production chain. In this and other projects, we are actively collaborating with universities, as we are convinced that there has never been a better time than now for the business community and academia to work together, to train the best prepared generation in history and for the specific needs of companies while providing us with a groundbreaking knowledge of digital technology. This is why we have expanded our traditional Acerinox chair at the Polytechnic University of Cádiz with a new collaboration with the Chair of Industry 4.0, recently set up by the prestigious engineering school ICAI. We have also pursued our own path in training future engineers and architects in the use and techniques of stainless steel through courses given by Accionistas, the Center for Development of Stainless Steel. In the academic year 2016-2017, we'll give 22 seminars in 19 Spanish universities, which will be attended by 1,350 students, 200 more than the previous years. These universities had the opportunity to take part in the first Acerinox Prize with an award of 3,000 euros for the winner with the best work related to stainless steel presented as an end of the course thesis. The winner of this first edition was Carlos Sanz San Miguel, an engineering student at the University of Zaragoza, for his work titled Comparative Study of the Behavior of Stainless Steel Affected by Corrosion and Chloride Ions, and who I had the honor of giving the award to personally. These external collaborations have not made us overlook our search for talent within the group. There were a total of 30 projects presented for the Rafael Naranjo Award, funded in honor of our late president, which prizes totaling 40,000 euros in total, set up to distinguish the best contributions from other employees to improve the quality of our processes and products, our environmental impact, and the safety of our facilities. Many of the projects submitted have already been implemented in our factory. We are committed to making our facilities safe places to work and to eradicating accidents in our industry, and I am pleased to inform you that the last year saw the lowest accident rate in our history, with no serious accidents occurring. We will continue to work to achieve our target of 0 accidents, which is the only result that we can be satisfied with. I am proud to be able to announce that the annual assembly of the International Stainless Steel Forum, the ISSF, the association I mentioned earlier that brings together the main global manufacturers in our sector, awarded us the first and second prize in the category of safety at work in Tokyo. Gold went to Accionistas Europa for the design of a resort to prevent accidents during the continuous casting of the steel mill, while silver went to Columbus Stainless for its research work and training to prevent accidents in the transportation of our products. I would like to take advantage now to congratulate those behind these projects. With position Acerinox as one of the best companies in the sector, a little title we should add to our traditional prestige as one of the most competitive groups. I would also like to mention our company's progress in 2016 in corporate governance, in line with the board's decision to incorporate the greatest numbers of recommendations from the Code of Good Governance and to become an example of transparency and good practice. We have developed policies which define the company's general guidelines. We have developed the prevention and regulatory compliance model, and we have modified our internal regulations along with great many other actions. Above all, in these documents, we have tried to embody the principles of integrity and the culture of effort which has formed part of Acerinox's character since its creation, and which we were taught and which we still hold true. For the first time, we are presenting the audited sustainability report, and also for the first time, we are including our 4 main factories in the GRI Global Reporting Initiative project, which rates the transparency of information in relation to our corporate social responsibility. As in previous years, we have continued to take part in the Carbon Disclosure Project, which gathers the company data on climate change and makes it available to the market. I should not pass up an opportunity of finding myself before such a distinguished audience to raise once again our plea to the Spanish government, or of whatever color, to offer industry some firm support and to not allow the growing artificial breach between the price of energy in our country in comparison not just with Asia and America, but also with other industrialized European countries. If we add the effect of taxes and tariffs which are applied to our electricity bill and subtract the much lower support for the cost of compensating CO2 emissions, it means that the price that we pay for electricity in Spain is already between 30 and 50% higher than that of our most direct competitors. This gap for a company such as Acerinox, which has a strong demand for electricity to smelt the steel using clean methods, represents a handicap of more than 20 million euros per year. While they clean up the budget and decide whether to offer real support in the reindustrialization of the country, we have in Accionistas been working for many years to save energy and compensate this handicap, and this has given us a spectacular capacity for improvement should the energy markets of the European Union achieve equal conditions. In any case, we are optimistic because we have a good product which continues to grow at a higher rate than other industrial metals and alloys. Stainless steel is an extraordinary material, a young material which is still in its growth stage, as the latest studies by the ISSF show, while its growth rate has historically been around 2.5 times the growth of the rate of the world economy. This distance has increased in recent years to almost double, 4.5 times, which can only mean that it is not being replaced by other materials. What its use, it's extending into other fields. Or to put it another way, the use of stainless steel continues to expand, enabling it to absorb the excess of installed production capacity. I'm convinced that the advance of a sustainable and circular economy and the calculation of the cost, not just of acquiring products, but the full cost of the whole life cycle, will contribute to further develop the conception of a material which is corrosion resistant, hygienic, easy to clean, with high mechanical characteristics, aesthetically pleasing, requires no maintenance, and it's hard wearing and 100% recyclable. Our geographical diversification, which is unique in the sector, will allow us to be local in the world's largest market, while our extensive commercial network will allow us to distribute our products with the perspective of a global company that is able to enjoy opportunities wherever they emerge on the planet. No other stainless steel production company in the world enjoys such a positive position for dealing with the difficult globalization process of the economy. In its new version, Globalization with Barriers, in view of all the protection mechanisms that are being implemented in many markets. Finally, I would like to restate my optimism because we are convinced that with the growth of economy and with greater stability, we will be able to increase our sales, and thanks to the competitiveness achieved, we will exceed the best margins in our history, despite market requirements being much more severe these days. In the first quarter 2017, taking advantage of the favorable market conditions, we have already had the opportunity to show our capacity of reaction and competitiveness by achieving EBITDA margins over sales of 15.3%, which is bordering on the margins achieved in the historic year for raw materials in 2006. It has been achieved with similar production, but with base sales prices 25% lower than that year, which gives you an idea of the work we have carried out in pursuit of excellence and efficiency. Our turnover for the first quarter of 2017 was 1,252 million euros, which is 31.4% higher than the same period of last year. The EBITDA generated was 191 million euros, which is 336.6% higher than the first quarter of 2016, and the result after tax and minority interest was 98 million euros, which is more than the whole year 2016, compared with the loss of 8 million registered in the first 3 months of 2016. Although market conditions will prevent us from projecting these figures for the remaining quarters, I can assure you that we shall continue to pursue our strategy and we shall take full advantage of the opportunities that arise to improve our results. We recommend the reading of our 2016 annual report, which shows results achieved in the year in greater detail. What cannot be fully reflected in the report is the impact on these results of the huge effort made by everyone at Accionistas in each of the departments, with 6,573 people in 40 countries on the 5 continents. Thank you to everyone for the efforts made. I hope you can continue working with loyalty, commitment, and dedication, while eagerly and confidently taking great opportunities to continue growing and achieving excellent results, which will allow us to maintain our leadership in the sector and increase our contribution to society. I would like to express my sincere thanks to my direct colleagues and the management team, who deserve a special mention. On behalf of all of us, I would like to express the pride and satisfaction we feel at forming part of this company, this great company that is Accionistas. I trust that through our work and efforts, we can continue to be deserving of the trust and support always shown to us by our customers, our suppliers, the financial community, and above all, you, our shareholders. Thank you very much for your attention.
If there is any shareholder entitled to attendance who is going to take the floor, he or she is kindly requested to head to the right part of the hall, where the reading desk is placed, and in order to document it in the minutes, you are requested to identify yourself with your national identity card and the attendance card stating the number of shares you have and if they are your own or if you are acting in representation. So we shall leave a few minutes now for any individuals to go to that part of the room, and in the meantime we will play a short video. If the right to obtain clarification could not be carried out at the time due to the specification of the date, the difficulty in obtaining it, or in general due to the concurrence of the circumstances of Article 197.2 of the Capital Companies Act, the Board will provide the information within 7 days after the General Shareholders Meeting.
We find stainless steel in our cars, in air and sea transport. It's an essential part of the structures that make up bridges, large buildings, our homes. It's part of our daily life and found in the kitchen utensils and appliances that make our lives easier. It's used in the healthcare industry, energy, aerospace, and it's essential in the food industry. Since it was discovered in 1912, its use has grown continuously, gaining recognition as a state-of-the-art material due to its versatility, lightness, flexibility, aesthetic appeal, and corrosion resistance. A clean, safe, and low-maintenance product. One company cannot single-handedly change the world, but it can help better the world of those with whom it is associated. Accionistas has developed a continuous investment program, achieving milestones in technology and in the integrated production process of stainless steel, making it one of the world's most competitive companies in its sector. We work to offer our customers the most extensive range of products and to meet any of their needs. Thanks to our excellent production and commercial structure, Accionistas has 4 of the world's most competitive factories on 4 continents and an active presence in more than 80 countries, distinguishing us as the most global stainless steel producer. We have factories in Spain, in the United States, and in South Africa. In February 2008, we decided to undertake a new project to use all our experience and know-how in the construction of a new factory in Malaysia. Our investment program is maintained even in difficult times, thanks to loyal customers and suppliers and our highly skilled employees. We are truly committed to protecting the environment. The reduction of greenhouse gas emissions to the atmosphere is one of our main commitments. Stainless steel is an environmentally friendly material, inherently neutral to the natural surroundings, durable, recyclable, and recycled, one of the most promising materials to conserve the planet's resources. Its use goes hand in hand with applications with intrinsically ecological and sustainable values, such as renewable energy equipment, energy-optimized buildings, water treatment plants, or gas desulfurization plants. Accionistas has consolidated its research, development, and innovation department responding to the changing needs of the sector and optimizing our production processes. Thanks to our team, to our corporate culture, to our competitiveness, to our service-driven and international vocation, to our suppliers, customers, and shareholders, this is the company we are and who we want to be. We believe in ourselves, we believe in our product, and we are ready for every challenge that the future may bring. Acerinox.